are equally delighted and honored to welcome Lillian, Judd, and her son Dennis, who, by the way, is celebrating his 60th birthday today. And we are delighted as well that we have them so appropriately for the Adele Zygielbaum Memorial Lecture. Professor Goodman will now tell you a bit about Adele Zygielbaum and introduce Lillian.
The picture on the left was taken of Adele Zygielbaum on her wedding day. And that is a more contemporary photo. I don't know when it was taken, but I think you can see the smile, the quiet smile. Adele Zygielbaum was born in a small town near Krakow, Poland in 1924. As you know, the Germans invaded Poland in 1935. She was only 15 years old. In 1941, the Jews in her town were moved into a ghetto, and later that year she was separated from her parents and her two sisters, having lost track of her brother previously. She never saw her parents, her brother, or her younger sister again. Adele was eventually subjected to forced labor in a German factory making soles for shoes, then in a munitions factory filling shells with gunpowder. Fearing she might be poisoned by the chemicals in the gunpowder, she informed a German engineer that she knew how to do electric welding, a skill that her father taught her during their time when they were in the ghetto. Adele and other prisoners often sabotaged shells by overfilling them, and then when she moved on to making shell casings, she often did a rather poor job of welding. In 1944, she was liberated by the Russian army, and following 6 weeks of treatment for malnutrition, she returned to her hometown and was reunited with her older sister who had survived the camps. In December of 1945, Adele married Joseph L. Zygielbaum, a well-known hero of the Polish underground. The newlyweds moved to a displaced persons camp and eventually emigrated to the U.S. in late 1946. Their first son, who is with us today, Arthur, was born in early 1947, and later that year the family moved to Los Angeles. Their second son, Paul, who is also with us, was born in 1950. She and Joseph became American citizens in 1952. And after Joseph's death, she moved to Santa Rosa. In the oral history that she gave us, Adele told us that she never saw a butterfly or a flower or a bird while she was in the camps, and that she used to wish she could become a butterfly so that she could fly gently out through the electrified wire fence without burning her wings. She was seldom without a scarf, a vest, or a piece of jewelry bearing the image of a butterfly. And it was totally appropriate that our logo for the center is, of course, of a butterfly flying over barbed wire. Adele's advice was, quote, "Never forget what happened, to tell the story so that it will never happen again, to remember the people that we've lost, to honor those who were not even privileged to have their own graves, and to understand that we are not responsible for our births, but we are responsible for our own conduct." Adele died in 2009. We are grateful to her family, her sons, Arthur and his wife Christine, and Paul and his wife Michelle, who have generously established the Adele Zygielbaum Memorial Endowment in her honor to support the work of the Center for the Study of the Holocaust and Genocide. Why don't we give a nice hand to the Zygielbaum family. It is inspiring to know that through the Zygielbaum Memorial Fund, we will be able to present a major speaker just about every year in the series, and it assures that we will move on and keep up the high standards. I always stumble across those pictures when I'm going through some of my files, and I always smile because I did have occasion to talk to Adele on the phone, and she was quite a woman. In the place of Christopher Browning, I would like to introduce you to Lillian and Dennis Judd. As you know, Dennis is celebrating his birthday, and we didn't find out until last night that Professor Browning was incapacitated and couldn't come. And fortunately, we have some really sharp minds. The president of the Alliance said, well, maybe Lillian and Dennis would speak. And I thought, oh my goodness, less than 24 hours notice. I called Dennis, and he said, well, I had left a message for him. I could hear Lillian in the background, and he said, Mom said it's okay, we'll come. So they have a wonderful story to tell you of a journey. The name of their book is From Nightmare to Freedom. Lillian was born in Czechoslovakia and grew up during the onset of World War II. As a teenager, she was taken to the ghetto in her hometown and then to Auschwitz death camp. Near the end of the war, she was forced to participate in death marches before her liberation and emigration to America. She has lived in Santa Rosa for many years and is an active member of Congregation Beth Ami, a local synagogue and community center. It is my great pleasure to present to you Lillian and Dennis Judd.
Well, 60 years ago, I never thought I'd be here, but here we are. So we're going to be ad-libbing a little bit because we didn't have too much time to prepare totally. Mom will give you the story of her experience, and part of the fascinating part of Mom's story is that when she arrived in Auschwitz, it just so happened it was the one time that we're aware of that a German photographer was taking photographs of a trainload coming in. And so we were honored to be able to have the permission to use those photographs in our book and in our program today. The real exciting part was one of the photographs was the picture that included my grandmother and my two aunts that were killed at Auschwitz, and then my aunt and my mother who survived. It was right after they murdered my grandfather. So we've got those photographs, and that I'll show you. I'll be showing those up on the screen here as Mom tells her story so you can actually see what was happening at Auschwitz. So here's my mom, Lillian Judd.
Thank you, this is me. I'm going to try to relate to you all the things that I experienced in Auschwitz, Bergen-Belsen, other camps, and on the death march, and getting home and getting to America. In 1938, I was 14 years old. I just graduated from high school in Czechoslovakia. Our country, part of our country was taken over by Hungarians as allies to the Nazis. And they came in our town, and they became active right away. They took all the Jewish licenses away, permits to operate any business. They separated us. They took everything they could from us, and very fast and very efficiently. They overtook us in 1938, but they didn't give us out to Auschwitz until 1944. So they would have had time, but they rushed. They didn't want to miss anything from the Jews. It was hard. We were just knocked down in every step we tried to make forward. We knocked 2 steps backwards. And we still tried. All of a sudden, the Jewish boys became forced. It was like the Hungarians created a forced labor camp where all the young Jewish boys, men up to 45, from 18, were placed in that camp, and they made them work very hard on the street, building streets, digging ditches. Working in the mines. Something is already fading. Working in the mines, and every now and then they let 1 or 2 boys home for a 2-3 day visit, and they came home and told us about what's happening on the border, or the Polish border, how they're killing the Jews, how they digging the big holes with the what is it called? Bulldozer, yeah, with the bulldozers, and make the Jews stand around it and strip, and then they machine gun them down. And then they cover them, cover the dead, the injured, and the live ones. And that were told us by those boys. Then they made us wear the yellow stars. We never could go out without it. They always threatened us. If they catch any Jews without a yellow star, they will be severely punished. And to tell you the truth, we were scared. They were very cruel. and obviously they hated the Jews, or they were taught to hate the Jews. And even the ones that were our friends at one time weren't very nice to us. And then here they were sending us all kind of intimidating letters. Be ready, don't give anything away for your neighbors or to anybody. Or to anybody, because you both be punished, the receiver and the giver. So, like I said, we were scared. I lived my life as a teenager the best I could. I went to dances, I went to school, but it wasn't the same. Especially when the kids get up, the boys, and said Jews out of a hall where we were going there forever like. And then we went out and we never came back again. Now, we were getting these letters from the authorities that you have to put everything together, all the jewelries, all the cash you have, all the valuables, and keep it in the house. Then they gave us a day, went to assemble on one corner of the city, and we all should go there and stand in line and wait for everybody to get there. That day was a very, very, very sad day for me too. Anyway, when I came, and we could only take what we could carry in our hands, in our arms. In my family, they were young children. They couldn't carry much. And as I was going out, following the kids, they told us, leave everything in the house. the authorities will come in and seal it, so that when you come back, you could find everything the way you left it. And that was a big lie, because we didn't know much about politics. We did not. My parents weren't politicians. I grew up in a house where there was no electricity, no radio, of course, no television. Nobody had television then, but we didn't get the news very fast. But we heard enough that upset us and made us very sad. The day we left our home, and I came to that corner that was designated for us to meet, I felt sick. It was a very dismal day. It was overcast, drizzling, a lot of crying going on. Excuse me. A lot of crying going on. And when I went out, I saw the old people standing there shaking, covering themselves up because it was cold. And in their eyes, they spoke with their eyes. I'll never forget those eyes. Why am I here? Why did they take me out of my warm house? Why did I have to leave my bed so early? What did I do? I haven't done anything to anybody. That's what I read in their eyes. The kids were crying with their nose running, coughing. Nobody was happy. So I joined them, and I felt like crying too. Well, very soon the lines were filled. Our neighbors were all over. They couldn't do nothing for us. They didn't do nothing for us. They just let us go. And when we were the last one assembled, then we started. They told us, walk. And we're walking. But I have to mention this. We got to know, my sister and I, the police captain there. And he came up to us while we were walking and said to us, Lily and Herzi, if you want to, I show you how to step aside and come to my house, and Mama, his wife, and him will take care of you guys. That really touched me so much that tears came to my eyes. And I said to him, thank you very much. We said it both, my sister and I together, with one voice. Thank you very much. But we will go where the rest of our family is going. And he was trying to talk us into a little more, but he didn't get nowhere, so he just left us there. And we kept marching, and we came to a place where they stopped us in front of the closed gate, and they opened the gate all wide, and they brought us into it, and we stopped, and they said, now this is the brick factory, and this is your ghetto. I never heard the word ghetto before. Well, I was just thinking, well, we'll see what's what. Then I saw how there are a lot of Jewish people from all over the area, the neighborhood, the villages. They were all brought in with their families and put into these shelves where they used to put the bricks when they took them out from the kiln, and they used to put the bricks into those shelves to cool off. Now, there were Jews there. There were people, children, old people, and straw. That's what I saw there. There was no room for us anymore there, thank God. We were on the ground, on the bare ground. But we did the best we could. And after a while, the 6 weeks passed away. We hardly had what to eat already. And then they decided now it's time came for relocation. But when they talked about relocation, they didn't say much, so that we kind of let known that we're going to work someplace and exist and live and let live. And that's what we thought. As we were walking then, from the ghetto, we walked, they told us, bring all you have and come on, meet us on another corner, by close to that brick factory. My dad was fighting in World War I, and he was injured in his leg there. And his walking wasn't so good and wasn't so fast. And these Hitlerjugends that they brought in, that the Nazis brought in, they all had whips, and they were just hitting with the whips if someone didn't walk fast enough. And I had my dad holding me by my shoulder and one side, and the other side he was holding his cane. And we were trying to walk as fast as we could so we wouldn't be hit. We walked and walked. Then I saw that we were coming close to the train station. And when we came in the station, we looked up and we saw there those small wagons, the small cattle cars. From one side, I looked one way and the other way. I couldn't see the end of them. And they were all open. And soon they started to shout, everybody go in the cars. And we had no choice. There were the guns and the whips and plus. So we all went to the cars, the little cars. And we thought we were filled already, because we could push in ourselves everywhere. And there wasn't much more room left. And then when were pushing filled up all the other cars, and they had some leftover Jews, then they brought it to each different car, each different car, and pushed some more people in. I, from the beginning, pushed myself to the wall and brought my family next to me. And because by the wall, they had a little spot where there was between the boards, and a little air was coming in, plus you could see out. And that made me a little bit more comfortable. And as I was there, and they closed the gate, they didn't give us water, they didn't give us the food, they didn't provide us toilet facilities, just locked up the wagons, and I hear the wheels screech, and we are going someplace. They never told us where, why, what we're going to do, what we're supposed to do. Nobody talked to us. We are on our way. We were all sad because we didn't know where we're going or where we end up or why. And that's a terrible feeling. We were going already a little while, and then the train stops. And the train stops because we arrived to a station of some kind in Poland, and they were getting some water on the train or whatever they needed to run the train. And I could look out through that space, and I saw there the workers, and they were happy, showing all kinds of faces to us, and showing us, you're going to be killed, you know? And that upset us and scared us even more. The Polish people that we don't even know, and they are very happy that we're going to be killed. Well, we were crying. Crying came very easy those days. Well, we went forward. We went further. We came to the next station, and it was also in Poland. And I looked out again through that hole. And my God, the same country. What different faces. So sad, so full of compassionate, and so full, you could see the sorry for us. They were sorry for us, but the complete opposite of the first station. And that made me realize one thing. In the same country, there can be all kinds of people, good and bad and worse. So I learned a lesson there. And then we went further. About the fourth day that we were in this train, we came to a stop. Didn't know where or why. But we heard the keys opening the gates. And when they opened the gates, we saw the light. Because where we were, it was dark. And we couldn't focus on the light. So we didn't know what was really happening. But we heard the shouting of the Nazis. Terrible hollering in German. Ugly names they called us. I was fluent in German those days. I don't know what they were calling us. I never heard those words before. They didn't teach us in school. But they were just as mean as they sounded. They were pushing, they were shouting, they were hollering, they were shouting. Fast, fast, fast. No place to go. There are people right in front of you. There was no place to go, but they were just shouting at us to go. Well, my dad, they were shouting everybody else without packages. My dad always carried with him a small briefcase with his prayer book, prayer shawl, and his phylacteries, because he was using it every day. Excuse me. Sorry. And he picked it up. And the Nazi saw it. As he turned away from the train, because he picked up the thing and we were out already. So he turned around and was walking toward we were walking, tried to walk to go outside. But then the Nazis saw him pick up that thing. And he came over with a rifle butt and started to beat my dad right there in front of me, hitting him over and over. The blood was running from his head, from everywhere. I don't know where it was running from. And I was crying, and he was still hitting him until he collapsed dead. Then he motioned to two older prisoners. They were in striped uniforms to come over, and they did. And each one grabbed my dad's one foot, and he was pulling him toward a wagon. As he was pulling him over the over the ruffled ground. The blood was just, his head was going up and down, I remember like today. And the blood was running out of him and left a mark. Then they came to a truck and they threw him on the truck, and I never saw him again. Then I asked him, I looked into his vicious eyes, and I asked him, why did you have to kill him? He didn't do anything. And he looks at me, boy, those eyes, they're still in front of me. And he lifted up his rifle butt and said, you want to go with him? And he was ready to bring it down on my head. And then, on one of the pictures, it shows that I didn't want to go with him. I wanted to go to find my mother and my 3 sisters. And that's where I was going. And I am on that picture. It so happened that they took that picture, and the Nazis did. And my whole family is on it, and me too. And
About 20 years ago, when my dad was still alive and my parents were living in Oakmont, and I came to visit them, and my mom showed me the previous photograph that was in a flyer from the Holocaust Memorial Museum, and told me, look, this is a picture of us, of me, my mom, my grandmother, my sister, my aunts. And I looked at my mom and I said, sure, okay. I couldn't see the resemblance. And then she said, well, here's a picture that was sent to America before the war. We had relatives in the United States, so this picture survived. And you can see the faces are all the same. And it was like, that was the sense of reality that hit me. So we didn't even know about these photos until that time. Here you go.
thank you, Dennis. I located my mom and my 3 sisters. I located my mom and my 3 sisters. And while I was watching my dad being killed, all the men were separated from women and children. I didn't see any men there anymore. And they ordered us to send in 5 rows. And we made 5, my mother and my 3 sisters and me made 5. And we were marching, coming closer to something, to a building. And Mom is on the end, so she saw what happened ahead of us more. So she says, there is somebody separating us, separating everybody. If they take any one of you away from me, I'm as good as dead. I didn't know what to tell her. I didn't know anything. So I said the rumor, I repeated the rumor that I heard, that the young ones they take us to work, and then on the weekend, the older ones, the family will get together in the weekends. I don't think that calmed my mom down, but that's all I had. And we come to the point where there is Dr. Mengele, looked very, very efficient in a beautiful white uniform and white gloves and tall, and he was just motioning with his one finger, one gloved finger, this way, that way, this way. So when they said this way, we had to go that way. When he said that way, then So my mother and two younger sisters had to go that way. My sister that was 3 years younger than I, the two of us, he chose to go this way. We were old enough to work. And me going, and the threatening was, my mom, I wanted to look back to say goodbye to Mom, to take care of herself. But Mom wasn't there anymore. They pushed them away somehow, fast, until I had to go without saying goodbye to them. And for us, they always said, if you have valuables, get rid of them. If you have money or jewelry, get rid of them. And in fact, we saw a lot of people throwing money away, bunch of monies, and jewelries in bags, because they scared them. I didn't have that problem. I didn't have money, I didn't have jewelry, I didn't have valuables. We were walking, came close to a gray building. I don't know if I'm keeping up with it. Okay. We came to this gray building, and I saw their wide steps and a big wide gate. And each time 5 people came close to the steps, those gates opened and let the 5 people in. And then it closed again. I never saw anybody coming out. So they went in. Then our turn came, and we did the same thing. They opened the gate, and they said, go in. So we went in, and when we came into a big room, and there were the floor was covered with colored hair in every shade, every color. I was wondering where that come from. Didn't know. Then there are about six Nazis standing in the middle, talking, telling jokes for themselves, and laughing. And they holler, everybody strip, everybody take all your clothes off. And I have never undressed in front of men before. So I was just standing and waiting for them to leave before I can undress. But there were some Polish girls there that helped the Nazis because they were forced to. And they came over to me and started to pull my nice clothes down off of me and throwing it down on the floor. And I said to her, why are you throwing my good clothes down on this dirty floor? How am I going to find it? He says, you won't. You will get other clothes. So I was naked, and then they pushed me in a chair. She pushed me in a chair. It seemed like I had no will at all. They said, now, after she started to shave me, and they shaved me everywhere, then she gave me in my hand something that they called soap, but it was more like a piece of rock, and pushed me toward a door. So I went there. There was no mirror or no place that I could see my reflections. I looked. I just went in there and didn't even think of anything. I was blank. And then my sister came in, and she was shaved. And then I saw how I must look too. And then we both started to cry. That they're doing with us what they want. We were there standing for a while, crying, and then the cold waters from the top, on the top of the ceiling, there were some shower faucets, and they turned it on, and the cold water was coming at us. So at first it shocked us. Forgot for a second our troubles. And then we got used to it and enjoyed it. Because after 4 days in that miserable little train, no washing, no water, no nothing, it felt good to get hose down. When then they stopped the hose, we were lucky. We didn't know how lucky we were. We came there and we got the water. When our families came there, 15 minutes before us, 15 minutes after us, they got the gas in the same place. Every 15 minutes there was a shower or gas. And I didn't know it at that time. So I don't know how lucky we were we got the water. And then they chased us outside without a towel, without anything. And we stayed outside in the cold for hours, and they kept counting us. We had to stand in attention so they could count us 5 to a row. And if one made a mistake, they had to count over and over and over until the right thing came out. Just so that they would push us down like inhuman. Finally, they told us to come in, and I saw the big tables. One was filled with children's slippers and shoes. The other table was filled with glasses, adults and children. And women were separating them. But the third table I saw was full with dentures, all kinds of dentures. And there were always also some women that they had to pick out the dentures that had a little piece of shining something, because that must have been gold. And they had to separate it because they saved those golds, whether it was in the mouth of the dead people or in the dentures. Then they took us in and they gave us clothes. I got a little short sleeve pullover, smelly old pullover, and a mini skirt. My sister got a long skirt, so at least she was warm. My sister got a longer skirt, and she was warmer than I in the blouse. And we were just ready to cry all the time. We didn't know what else to do. And very cold. Then they were taking us out. We came to a barrack, and the doors were broken. How much time do I have? You got about 15 minutes. Finish up. And the gypsies ran out. And I didn't know they were gypsies, that they were pretty dark girls. So, but then I found out, and the Nazis came and pushed them back into the barrack and called them gypsies, so I know they were gypsies. Then they took us to the barrack where we were supposed to be. We were standing there for a long time, and I looked up. There was a window on the building, and I looked up and I saw something like, look, a bunch of monkeys. That was us. We were standing there, and that window reflected us all, and we looked terrible. And I'm looking and looking, and I can't find myself. I felt I need to know which of those monkeys am I. And I went like this and like this until I looked at myself. When I saw myself, I started to cry. I was so ugly. I looked like an ugly monkey, indeed. So we went further crying. Now we are in Auschwitz. The block supervisor came and put us to a barrack, there were beds for bed structures, for 5 beds in one structure. And they put us to sleep. And we all got out of there and ran toward the supervisor's office and the gate. And she came out and she says, "Now where do you think you're going? What you doing?" And we all heard her. "We want to see our families." And he says, "You can't." And they chased us all in because she had about 12 helpers. So they chased us all back to the bed. We were there for about 5 minutes, and then we all jumped up again, and this time more determined. And we were running to the gate. But this time, the supervisor came out with a key in his hands. And he says, "So you want to see your family?" We said, "Yes." "Okay." We were so surprised that she agreed. All of a sudden, what happened? She opens the gate, and it's dark outside, and the smell is terrible. Burning human beings. Smells the worst. And then she shows us the sky was a vivid red. And then she points up and she says, "Look, there are your parents burning." Just like that. And we looked up, and then she showed us the crematorium, pointed to the crematorium, and we believed her right away. And we started to cry. And we walked back in crying and accepted what she said, because there was that kind of a proof. No more families. Then we were already placed in the barracks. The local tester came, when we already were placed in the barracks, there was no work for us. They didn't have anything to do with us. A couple of days later, they woke us up at 4:30 every morning for Zygielbaum to count us. And then after that, the coffee and the latrine we had to go to, and there was no water to wash or anything. None of the faucets were working. And when we were there, sitting there on the bed, and they say, "Everybody out, go out and extend your left arm." You're wondering why, but we did what they said, or beating. They came with a belt very easily, those supervisors. And we go out, and our arms are extended, and I see a woman walking toward us with something in her hands, like a fountain pen, it looked to me. And when she grabbed my hand and started to push that gadget into my arm, and the blood came out mixed with the ink, blue ink. It was a scary sight. I said to myself, "Now, what we do when we get infected?" Nobody answered. So that was our tattoo. And that was what they used for us. They took away our names, and we had we were a number while we were in Auschwitz. Then they took us to work in a Weberei. Anybody knows what a Weberei? Nobody? Huh? Weberei. Where in a Weberei they make cloth, with those machines, loom, on the loom. Yeah. It didn't work for us because they didn't have anything to feed the room with. So they put us into another room where we had to cut up beautiful things, beautiful brocade draperies. Beautiful draperies and bedspreads, brocade, with rich people's clothes, stuff. We had to cut it up in about an inch and a half width, and then they put us by tables and chairs, and in front of each chair there was a nail, and we had to make a tie on those stripes, hang it in there, and braid it like you would braid a hair, and then roll it up, and you had to make so many meters every day. I don't know what they used it for, if ever they used it, but that was our job. But then came Yom Kippur. Does anybody know what Yom Kippur is? It's a Jewish holiday. Yom Kippur is the biggest holiday in Jewish religion. And it was coming soon. So this lady who was there with 3 daughters, she was grateful to God. And she says, girls, Yom Kippur is coming. How about let's keep it. Let's do something. So what? We tell the Brockelterste not to give us our little bread in the morning, and not to give us that fake coffee, and we're going to fast, and we prepare our work in advance, the extra bundle, every day a little bit, so that we would have it for that day, and we wouldn't have to work. And we would still have the quota. And we did that. It was all prepared. It was all prepared. And when the day came, everything went as planned, except, what makes the noise? Me?
Right there. Perfect.
Thank you. Okay. So we had everything ready. We arranged it with the Brockelters, the food. We arranged the work. So now we're light. We're going to work in the morning, hungry, because we were always hungry anyway. So we come there, and all of a sudden the couple comes in and looks around, and she noticed that we're not working as usual. So she went to the first girl, and she was 2 girls away from me, and she started to look into the materials, and she found the bundle, and she got angry, and she says, "What are you doing?" And I don't know what she said or she didn't say, but she got a very big beating over the head. And these couples knew how to hit so that you felt like your head is getting off your shoulder and goes rolling on the floor. So she beat her up, she beat the one next to me up, and the next to her up, and then was my turn. And she was beating and beating like it was a pleasure to her. And she was hitting me and hitting me. I thought she'd never stop. And I was crying, and I was crying to God. God, why now? Why this? What did I do now? I'm following your commandments. Why am I getting this horrible beating? What did I do? No answer. Quiet. Then I said, God, my sister Hertzie is two chairs or 3 chairs away from me. Please make her tired so that she couldn't beat her on her up at least. And you know what? She beat me up and she beat one more girl up. And then she says, I'm so tired. What are you guys doing to me? She beat us up and she's asking, what are you guys doing to me? And she says, I can't go on. And she said, my sister was never hit, never hurt. So I said, thank you, God, for that. And I don't know what to believe or not to believe on that, but it hit me. Then meantime, the Russians were coming closer to Auschwitz. And one day they said, everybody untrained, everybody get up in line, we're leaving. The Allies were coming close, the Russians. So they wanted us in their own to take away from Auschwitz. They didn't want the Russians to find us there. And we didn't want to go. So they came in the barracks and started to shoot in the air. Next is for you, they were saying. So we got scared, because we were also scared. And we went out. They gave us a bed. I think maybe they even shaved our heads again. And then they gave us a bigger piece of bread than usually, and put us back again into those little wagons. So we were thinking, where are they taking us now? Nobody said nothing. But this time they gave us some water. The other times they didn't. And they took us as far as Bergen-Belsen. There was another sign on the gate. Welcome to Bergen-Belsen. They always said welcome to these hellholes. So we all unloaded. I was very sick already when I came there. I had a terrible bladder infection. And I suffered, and I needed some warmth. I needed some water, hot water, or something. There was nothing. Some antibiotics. There was nothing. So I was there sitting on they pointed out the ground for us. That's where we were sitting. And then we were sitting there, and some stronger prisoners came over. When they brought us some straw to put under us, I grabbed onto the straw, and some stronger prisoners grabbed onto the other end and pulled it away from me. I ended up with a handful of straw. Didn't go very far with it. So they did the same thing with the soup. They grabbed our soup, the stronger ones. We got a little tiny bit of soup on the bottom. And I said, we had our 2 friends. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Hold it up a little higher. I'll hold it.
See, you made me forget what it was.
You're in
I am in Bergen-Belsen. So anyhow, I said to these girls, the 2 sisters that we befriended, and my sister, I said, I got to get out of here. They all looked at me. He says, what? I said, I got to get out of here. I don't want to die here after Auschwitz. And my sister and the others looked at me like I went crazy. I missed that one. Why was it laughing? Okay.
Welcome to our family.
So we go. Morning, we are arguing. I think I was crazy because I said I have to get out of here, and I very seriously said, I have to get out of here, or I'll die here, and I didn't want to die there. So they thought I was crazy because there was no way inside to get out. In the morning, there was nothing to do. In the morning, we went for a walk. There was a big property there. And I see by one building,
Don't eat it.
and I see by one building, two gentlemen are standing in civilian clothing. And there are some women, a few women there, and they're selecting for something. I said, look, girls, this is my way to get out of here. You want to come with me, you come. If not, if you want to stay, that's your privilege. I'm going right now. And I started to walk toward those men. So all of them followed me, and I had them all in front of me. The sisters and my sister, and the men told them to go this way. I came, and he sent me this way. And this way was back to Bergen-Belsen. And I didn't want to, that's what I wanted to get away from. And I said, and I started to push myself toward the other side, slowly. But when I came almost there, the man said, didn't I tell you that you go that way? I said, yes, I don't know why, but my sisters went that way. They went that way. Oh, your sisters are there? Okay, you go too. And that's how I was saved. Okay. They packed us into a truck and covered the whole truck with some tarp, and they were taking us someplace. Don't know where, didn't see nothing. It was fine with us at that point. And we stopped a place. There were condominiums and a big factory. They showed us that you're going to live in these condominiums. You're going to have showers every day if you want. You're going to have food to eat. We bring you food from the restaurant. We will give you every week clean clothes, not new clothes, but clean clothes, which we didn't see for the whole time when we were in Auschwitz. And he says, and here we are making it possible to live like a human being. But I looked at ourselves and I said, yes, you're giving us a possibility, but we're not human anymore. We weren't human. We weren't responsible. We were different people. Some women still went on the yard, even if we have bathrooms there. And then they gave them lessons and they stopped. But what I'm saying is, that's what the Nazis thing was, to get us down, where we wouldn't feel human anymore. And that's why they made us do certain things. And by the time we got there, we weren't human. It took us time to get back to something normal. Where are we? So, we were free from there. We were working in a factory. I didn't care who we worked with. I just saw that the activity was humanly and nice, and we were working. Half of us were worked one shift, the other half the other shift. They were giving us things. They gave me a sweater that I ripped and made 2 pairs of socks. I made some knitting needles from wood, and I needed 2 pairs of knee-high socks, one for my sister. We brought it actually home. We came home in it. The socks kept us warm. Okay. And then the Allies came even closer to that place, and they evacuated us from that nice place. And they evacuated us into one building, and there were the Nazis let out the criminals in Germany or somewhere, and those were our supervisors. And they were making us do unnecessary things. Like that, it was raining and cold, and we never were dressed warm or gloves or anything. And we had to, he put us to a big lot of big rocks, heavy rocks, and they were saying, now you line yourselves up so that you throw these rocks to each other. Don't you drop it, because we will be punished. Oh, yes, you will, because those rocks fall on your feet. You'll be punished. So we were doing it, and that was a very hard work because our hands were stiff and cold, and we brought it up to the hill, all those rocks. Now we thought, good, we finished. They're going to take us out and let us rest a little bit and get warm. No. They said, now you have to bring those things down the way it was. All those rocks, we had to stand again in the same way, in the same line, and throwing at each other downwards until all those rocks were down again. Now, what kind of work was there? Who did it help? Well, they evacuated us from there to another place. And then in the morning, they gave us some coats, warm coats and sweaters. And they painted a big K, Konzentrationslager, on everyone's back. And they said, now, here they gave us a big piece of bread, and they gave each of us a blanket. And they say, and now we're going walking, marching. And that's where the death march, the infamous death march started. We started at 1,250 people, women, in all kinds of conditions. By the time we were liberated, the time that they let us go, we were 250. And the rest were shot or died or whatever. And that was the end. The end, the Nazis got together because we were just going into a small circle. I recognized all the signs already, and we were coming to it too often. So I knew that we are at the end of something. So they got together and started to whisper among themselves, and then they came out and started to say to us, run, run, and hollering, run, and starting to beat us with the rifle butt if we didn't run. We didn't know. We didn't know what they want. Here they are guarding us so close, and they say run. They want to shoot us and kill, but they can do it when we're standing. So when one of the SS came toward me with a rifle butt, I grabbed my sister's head and jumped into the forest. We were on a narrow street, paved street, and on each side there were thick forests. So I ran with my sister and ran. I don't know where I got the energy. but we ran until we came to a clearance, and that's where we found the man working. And I went to him and I asked in German, what could you give us something to eat? That was always a question for us, if we could get something to eat. He says, I only have bread and milk to give you. That's fine. We didn't have milk and good bread since we left home. And he fed us with bread and milk. It was good. And then I asked him, would you please tell me, what part of the world are we in? And he says to me, you're in the Sudetenland. And that was part of Czechoslovakia. I started to speak to him Czech. And he spoke to me. And I said, I've never been here before, but I wouldn't recognize that we are in Czech. Because nobody spoke Czech because they were all Germans. And the Germans were moving out when the war was over. And then he says, the girls heard me talk to him Czech. Says, why don't you tell him that he would stay, if he let us stay here and just feed us, we work for free. And he says, you don't have to do that anymore. They don't have to do that anymore. The war is over. Germany lost. You can go home. You can go home. We don't have a penny to our name. How are you going to get home? Because even it was part of Czechoslovakia, but we were on the other end. We came from the other end. But then, slowly, we were free. And
I'm going to take over for a second. A big part of what my mom went through affected me growing up as a second generation, because I was being woken up routinely by nightmares that my father was having, who was also a survivor of Auschwitz and Buchenwald, and my mom. And a part of where my mom was coming from was after years and years of having the nightmares, she finally decided it was time to start to tell her story. And she started to start writing her story. First, she started to write it. And that was like about a 10-year project of her writing her memoirs and getting that out of her. And as she was able to write it, I think she was able to release a lot of the pain that was in her, and be able to start sleeping at night again and being able to focus more on her life. Took another 10 or 15 years before we were able to put together her book and put that together. And she started doing more, started making talks. Okay, my mom's going to pull it back from me. So anyhow, when we were putting her book together, I felt that I needed to address the second generation point of view, and also try to put together some of the documentation of what I called the verification. So that was the photographs that we were able to get, and a lot of other information. But it was interesting because we could see that the way it was set up, on one side of a wall in Auschwitz was where the SS soldiers lived, and there was another photo log that was available from the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum, and it showed these SS officers lighting their Christmas tree candles, singing songs with the accordion, dancing with the girls that were there, the blueberry girls or whatever they called them, and it was like they could live their lives and be really, quote unquote, nice to each other. And on the other side of the wall, there's 10,000 Hungarian Jews being killed every day. So something was going on. It was like, what's on the other, where does that line drawn? How can people on one side of the wall be okay killing all these people on the other side of the wall? And was it just the wall, or was it the next city or the next town or the country or the world? Because many people knew what was going on with the Holocaust, and not much was really done. So I think that's the message to get through to here, and my mom's trying to get that message out as far as letting go of your anger and trying to get involved. Sorry. And trying to be more involved with making the world a better place and standing up for others, or getting help for others when they need it. And that's been a big problem here that we've been seeing with the continuous genocide still occurring after the Holocaust and the hatred still happening and so on and so forth. Let's go one more. So my mom started giving her talks, and that was a big part of her healing, was to get her message across to people like yourselves. So she's spoken at schools and so forth. And I think that's the next part of what her message is that she got her book together that explained the story, but now what is it like when she tells the story to the people? And how are people impacted and what happens there? And I think that's a big part of what's been really important for her. And it's been interesting when we put the book together. We've gotten quite a bit of positive response from it. Even got a letter from Mr. Wiesel, which was pretty special for us. We were invited to Washington, D.C. to do a book signing there at the Holocaust Memorial Museum, and it was very special to see that my mom became a celebrity. And she was invited to meet with Senator Feinstein and come to her office, and it kept going, and they were all treating us good. And explain how it felt when you were there, when you were in Washington, D.C., how everybody was treating you. What she would say was, how could I ever, she's not paying attention to me, but that's normal. How could I have ever imagined being in Auschwitz that I would ever be invited and be part of meeting the senators and meeting the congresswoman. We didn't get to meet Obama; he was busy, but we did get a tour of the White House, and so it was special. But the main thing was that she's touching the younger people and the common people, and that's been very special for her. So I wanted to make sure we had some time to take questions, and we're here to answer any questions you might have. But Mom is someone that survived, and more importantly, she's put her story together, and more importantly, she's spreading the word to people and talking, and that's really, I think, what's making a big difference in our lives and in the lives of many others. I don't know if there's any questions. Yes. Were the capos in Auschwitz Jewish or German or Polish?
Polish Jews. Polish Jews.
Polish Jews. Jews from Poland.
They were prisoners, and then they got some special thing that they made into the helpers or couples, and they got some special privileges, and they were doing very good job for the Nazis.
Any other questions? We have copies here. We've also set up a program because we were planning to talk next week. So books could be, we're going to make books available to Sonoma State students for half price. We've also got it on an ebook, so for $5, that's half price for that too. Starting tomorrow for a week, you can order the ebook up also if you're a student. But we have some here that we can sign for you if you're interested. Any other questions? Got to be a few here. Come on. Yes. What was it like coming home after after surviving all this?
Coming home? When I came home? Another big disappointment. I came home finally after months because all the railroad stations were bombed, and so they had to stop, and then we had to walk a long time until we got home and find another station. But when we came home, I weighed 35 pounds. 35 kilos. 70 pounds, 70 or 75 pounds. Not 35. 35 kilos.
She turned into a butterfly.
Okay, I'm a little bit mixed up. I'm 91 years old. For Pete's sake. Thank you for listening to my story. And I want to finish what you asked. I came to my house finally, and my sister and we were living an imagination for ourselves. I said that my mom will come home. She will manage to come home. She was perfect in German. She was an educated lady. She was a pretty lady. She will come home. And that brought me home, that belief that my mom will come home. Now I am hurrying home. Some company offered some money, so some of the survivors, no, I want to go home. I want to see mom. And I was running home. I came home. Mom wasn't there. My sister knocked on our door. Nobody answered. We're looking around and we started to cry. And finally somebody from our house said, "This is not your house anymore. Go away. This is my house." But never opened the door or anything. That's kind of a coming home we got. Then I looked up, I said, God, I always talk to God. God, why did you let me survive and bring me home? Mom isn't here. The house, we cannot get into our house, they won't let us. What are we going to do? I am a grown-up person chronologically, but I was a child when I came home in my mind. So what am I going to do? I am hopeless and helpless. And I just looked up and I was crying, my sister too. And I looked up and my neighbor lady from across the street came over. And I was seeing her running over toward us, and says, "Come, girls, come to my house. I'll take care of you." And you know what? We were covered with lice because there was no way to clean up. And we were skinny. We didn't have decent clothes. And she took us and starved, of course. She took us into her house. She gave us a clean bed. She gave us first a bath. And she went to the drugstore and bought something for the lice. She cleaned us from the lice and gave us clean clothes, gave us a nice clean bed, and a wonderful dinner. And then I said, "Thank you, God." Because I felt that God sent her to us. So I'm not abandoned. And then I started to kind of think differently. But that was my homecoming. Okay.
Yes. How long did she stay with the lady, with the neighbor?
Not too long, about 3 weeks. And then I told her that I'm going to pay her for what she did. But then a friend came over who came home earlier from the work for the forced labor camp, and he started a business for himself, a Jewish boy. And when he came to visit me, he gave me when we was shaking hands with me, he gave me a big bill of the money that they were having there, a big bill. I didn't want to take it. He says, "Don't take it for yourself and give it to that lady that helped you. Because you have no money, you can't pay her anyhow. And I did that. And I gave it to her, and she was happy because she could use it, everybody can. And that was it. And then they had the kitchen for the joint, set up a kitchen for the survivors. And we could have one good meal there a day. And slowly, the skinny us became chubby, red, because they were inviting us, the neighbors, and they saw us, my mother's friends. They saw us, they invited us for dinners, and they made all the heavy things that mother used to make. And this is so skinny persons. And one night, 6 people invited us for dinner. The same night. I don't remember how I managed it time-wise, but I accepted all 6 dinners for them. And what else? We went there and we ate all 6 dinners. I don't know how.
She's a good eater now, too. She's a great cook. Any other questions? Yes. She's asking what kind of aid was set up for the survivors. I believe that there was, what do they call it, the aid to help you with food or money. I think
it was the joint. Joint organization or whatever they call themselves. But I didn't know much about any of those things. And I just knew that somebody paid for my meals. And somebody made someone else rich too.
Okay, any other questions? Yes. How did you come to the United States? I think one other thing that happened real quickly, and we're out of time, but I'll just say it quickly, is as I was going through trying to address what it was like being a second generation, I needed to address, kind of go deep and personal, but part of it was learning to forgive. As a second generation, I really didn't want to have anything to do with Germans or Germany. And I started to go, well, I have to learn how to forgive. So do I forgive the Germans? Do I forgive the Nazis? What do I forgive? Which I was saying it, and it was hard to imagine it. And it finally, after working it through with my mom and with others, it was the reality that I can't forgive the Nazis that did harm to other people. Only those other people can forgive those Nazis. What I can forgive, and what it really came down to, is I can forgive the Germans who were never born at the time. And as I went through that process, and it was about a 2-3 month diving deep into myself to come to that terms, it was like something clicked, and all of a sudden we had an issue when we were finishing the book up, and Mom fell and hurt her knees, and we were getting x-rays at Kaiser in Maui. And there's this really happy lady, probably in her 40s at the time, blonde lady, and she's just real friendly, let me come into the x-ray room with her, and I'm seeing this really happy lady. When she starts to get my mom the x-ray, she goes to give it to her, and she comes back out, and her whole disposition has changed, and she's not happy anymore, and there goes, something's going on here. She goes about to reposition my mom again, sees her tattoo, and then starts breaking down in tears, and starts begging my mom for forgiveness. And what is she wanting to be forgiven for? She's a German, and her uncle was one of Hitler's advisors. And my mom's response was, well, you weren't even born then. You weren't even born in the war, during the war. You're not responsible for having an evil uncle, And that kind of hit me hard there. And then as we were flying back home from Hawaii, we're sitting on a plane, and this young lady, probably in her 30s, sits next to me. And she's from Turkey. And I'm like into all of this writing, and I'm asking her, so tell me about the Armenian genocide. How's that? What's your thoughts about that? At which point in time she was telling me that there was no Armenian genocide. The Turkish people were just protecting themselves against the Armenians. The Armenians started it all. And it was like, whoa, this is somebody young from Turkey. And what a difference from the other lady. And then like 2 weeks later, I was at a healing center, and I meet this lady who's German, who again is in her 40s, so she's born after the war. And as I was telling people, I was there for a week, starving myself. And as I was talking to some people, they didn't care what I did for a living, but they were interested in the book. And I was telling them about the book. And as I got done telling the story to these two ladies about what we were doing, the German lady was behind me. And she says, Dennis, can we go for a walk outside to get some food? I go, fine. She says, did you know I was German? I go, yeah, I could tell from your accent. And then she breaks down in tears, and she's crying, and she's asking me for forgiveness. She's not asking my mom. She's asking me as a second generation. And that one kind of really hit hard at home. So what really came out of all of that was realizing that there are people in Germany, or that the perpetrators, the heirs of the perpetrators, are affected also when these types of genocides and holocausts occur. And there's a healing that needs to be done there. But it's got to be from the perpetrators who have admitted what they've done. And I guess Germany has done that. I never thought I'd stick up for Germany, but they have, versus Turkey is still denying it for the Armenian genocide. And so there's a healing that needs to happen for perpetrators as well as second generations of survivors. And I think that happens probably with many different groups of genocide victims and perpetrators. That was something I never anticipated or thought about before. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you.